liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome to the March 8, 2016 County Commission meeting. I would remind you to silence your cell phones. Meeting documents are on the end of the counter next to Commissioner Bender. And if you need a listening device, Robert is in the front here and he could help you with that. With that, we'll move on to routine business. Item number 1 is consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 2 is approve the County Commission meeting minutes from March 1st, 2016. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any amendments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 3 is bills to be paid in the amount of $709,159.65. Is there a motion?
Pay the bills.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments on the bills?
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Worth?
good to have you back.
Thank you.
We had $200,000 go to Armor Correctional Health, and we spent some money in the Highway Department on truck bodies, $160,000 basically. There's also quite a number of bills for the coroner office transporting bodies. I think about 8 of them.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second on the bills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 4 is reports. Item A is the annual report for the Minnehaha County as of and for the end of the year, December 2031, 2015, December 31st, 2015. Item B is the auditor's report with the county treasurer as of February 29th, 2016, and those are both on file at the auditor's office. Item number 5 is personnel action. Item A is consider a motion to approve the routine personnel action. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions for HR? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 6 is applications for abatement. Pam Nelson, our auditor's office. We'll take care of that.
Commissioners, Robert Wilson with the Commission Office. Got a couple of assessment freezes for you this morning. We'll read the tax ID numbers and the amounts. Assessment A, assessment freeze for RDID 23120 in the amount of $443.46. B is assessment freeze for RDID 32851 in the amount of $70.74. C is assessment freeze for tax ID number 35971 in the amount of $650.64. D, assessment freeze for RDID 43299 in the amount of $792.03. E, assessment freeze for RDID 50751 in the amount of $240.04. And F, assessment freeze for RDID 58142 in the amount of $636.95.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I would look for a motion for items A through F.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 7 is notices and requests. Item A is notice from Dakota Trout Unlimited of intent to conduct a fundraising raffle on April 16th, 2016 to benefit various conservation and educational projects. Item B is authorize the county auditor to post notice of a hearing to consider 2015 carryovers and 2016 supplements in the amount of $470,000, $665.11 in the general fund and $1,743,832.35 in the special revenues fund. Kim Adamson. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Adamson from the Auditor's Office. We're here this morning to request approval to post notice of this budget hearing for March 22nd. This is a routine annual action that's taken in order to carry over supplements from the 2015 budget for projects that were planned and not completed, and also to carry over unused grant funds. We did make a late change to the amount so that the general fund amount should be a total of $470,000. Excuse me, I've got to find my right number here. $470,665.11.
that's the number I
Okay.
read.
All right.
Okay, are there any other questions for Kim? Otherwise, I would take a motion to approve the posting
Well,
of this.
I do.
Oh.
These are only items that have been incurred but not paid,
There,
or
it's,
been contracted for and not paid.
it is a combination of those items plus some grant funds that were not spent during last year
Okay.
that are
But
being carried forward.
it has nothing to do with a department that ended up with unspent funds that go into that go back into the general.
Correct,
Thank you.
correct.
Look for a motion to authorize auditor to post the notice of hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Kim. Item number C is authorize the county auditor to publish notice to bidders for the highway project MC 149 reconstruction, reconstruction of Highway 149 and Highway 38 to Highway 122.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 8 is planning and zoning notices. There are none. Item number 9 is petition for compromise of lien. Item A is DPNO number 65250 in the amount of $1,649.87. Robert Wilson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Robert Wilson again with the Commission Office. As you mentioned, we have a compromise lien application for DPNO 65250 in the amount of $1,649.87. The applicant is requesting a compromise and release in full upon payment of $300. The applicant mailed in this application and supporting documents and indicated that she was in the process of applying for the Habitat for Humanity program, and that this lien was a hindrance to furthering her ability to participate in that program. We've tried to reach out to the applicant a number of times and was not able to talk to her by phone. I got a voicemail on my phone just as I came into the office this morning, or came into the meeting this morning, that I didn't have an opportunity to return prior to the meeting. But in following up with the folks at the Habitat for Humanity organization, she has not been approved for participation in the program this year. The earliest point where she would be approved would be accepted into the program in 17 with potential home ownership in 2018. And from the Habitat for Humanity standpoint, there is no pressing need to deal with this lien at this point. The lien consists entirely of human services provided between 2007 and 2009. The applicant is a single parent of 3 children, indicates that she currently lives in the Heartland House, total income of just under $25,000, and assets are fairly limited, include a 2001 model vehicle and less than $200 cash funds and checking accounts, with debts just under $8,000. Again, this I haven't been able to follow up with her and have that conversation of exactly why the need or request was brought forward at this time. The written material that you've been provided indicated a reference to Habitat for Humanity, but again, that while she may be part of that program in a more direct manner in the future, it does not appear that there's an immediate need as far as that program for the compromise at this point.
Okay. Is the applicant here? No, the applicant is not here. Commissioner Barth?
Robert, how come no income tax statement on her application?
The information that she provided was it's what we received. That it was all in one packet, and we made a number of attempts to follow up and ask some additional questions, get some information, and I had a voicemail on my phone at 5 minutes to 9 this morning as I came in here. But there was there was some tax information in there, but there was no return.
Right.
Other questions or comments? I guess I would be inclined to let this wait and not compromise it at this point. If she's got an extra $300, it might be better put towards credit card debt than paying off the county that doesn't have an interest rate on her debt. She's got plenty of debt piled up that she needs to work on. And if we don't have a Habitat for Humanity contract at this point. Commissioner Kelly?
I do think, if we don't approve this thing, I do think she needs to be encouraged to make some payments over the next year or so, and then come back with it when she's ready to get the house.
I promise every conversation that our office has with lien applicants or people considering asking for a compromise, that is part of every one of those conversations.
Additional comments or a motion?
I will make a motion to defer this. I don't want to have a specific date that we need to look at it until she brings it back with tax returns potentially.
Do you have a comment?
The other thing that I'd,
Just be cleaner to deny for now, and she can always bring it back, correct?
Yes.
make a motion to deny.
Second.
The other comment that I would like to make, if I might, it appears when you look at the list of liabilities on the left-hand side of her application, that she might need some credit counseling education.
Yep.
So if we could encourage that, that would be good.
Do that.
I have a motion and a second to deny the compromise. Additional comments, Commissioner Barth?
Just, I think at Heartland House, they do try to help people do that. And at the same time, I am totally in agreement with everything my fellow commissioners have said. We can make this happen, but we need to keep working at it.
I have a motion and a second to deny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next is opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda. Okay, seeing nothing, we'll move on. Regular business. Item number 10 is consider a motion to authorize the chair to sign a 2-year agreement between Minnehaha County and the City of Sioux Falls for temporary construction, staging, parking, and overflow parking at the Community Corrections Center. Robert?
Commissioners, Robert Wilson again, and this is an agreement that our office, the state's attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and the City of Sioux Falls have been working on for a number of months, potentially close to a year at this point. And really, we are at the potential for entering into a temporary agreement with the City of Sioux Falls to use a portion of the Community Corrections Center parking lot out on Russell Street. And I think it's just easier for me to show and tell as I move through this. I'm going to be able to bring up a map here, and so we can see what we're talking about. Okay, so here's the property that we're talking about. The area outlined in red is county-owned property that is the County Corrections Center on West Russell. The area in orange is city-owned property to the west. The area in green is the subject of this agreement today, as well as a small box up there in yellow. And the city is potentially looking at entering into an agreement with an outside entity to develop their area of land to the west of the county-owned property. And they're looking for a couple of areas of assistance from the county, particularly as it relates to this green area on the west side of our property on that parking lot. They're looking for construction staging area during construction, and then overflow parking in that area once the project is completed. And I'll let the city get into more of the particulars of that request, but this is the area that we're talking about. And again, since we are located close proximity to the Community Corrections Center, the area up in yellow that is boxed would be a area that would be enclosed. That's an inmate rec area that the sheriff could speak more to, and that would be site separated from the area from the city area to the west of that. So this would be a 2-year temporary agreement. First portion of it is construction staging. Second portion would be overflow parking. And I would be happy to turn it over to Darren, Dustin, or Sheriff Milstead to talk more about the particulars of this agreement. Kirsten Kapmeyer from our State's Attorney's Office has been involved in drafting this agreement as well. Darren?
Thank you and good morning. Darren Smith, City of Sioux Falls. We are here to ask for your support for the shared parking agreement, temporary shared parking agreement to accommodate what we hope is a new development at the Elmwood Golf Course, which is a city-owned golf course, and that is identified in yellow, as Robert said. Of course, this property is adjacent to the county's work release facility property. And so this shared agreement involves approximately 1 acre of the county's property. It would be utilized, I think, the first probably 12 months for staging for the construction of the development on the golf course site. And then most likely the last 9 to 12 months of the agreement would actually be the first 9 to 12 months of the new development opening for business. It would provide overflow parking at that time, and will give the new development about a year to determine what its long-term permanent needs are for parking out in that area. And the last thing I would say, I know we mentioned this before, but we would be happy, very happy to work with the county after this agreement is executed to see what the future holds out there as far as the county's intentions with that property, certainly our interest, the private developer's interest, other private entities' interest, in potentially acquiring this site or owning it when the county is ready to do something different with it. I've been accused once or twice of talking too much, so I'm going to stop and just turn it over to Sheriff Milstead, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Darren. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Commissioners. I do appreciate the support that we've gotten to this point with the commission and the city. I think this is a good plan. We've known since December of 2012 that facility needs to be replaced. We've had a huge transition with the type of people we house at the Community Corrections Center now. Before we had our 24/7 and SCRAM program and electronic monitoring capabilities, all of our people on work release lived in that facility and drove their cars, and we housed them overnight. We've transitioned that away to only a handful now that we have on actual in-custody work release. And so most of the people on work release are now on GPS tracking, electronic monitoring. We operate it out of that facility, but they don't park there anymore. They don't stay overnight. They eat their own food at their own home and continue to work. So that's how we run work release. And so we won't need that half of the lot. So it doesn't impact our operations at all. And I'm very supportive of this, and I really like the agreement as it's laid out, because we're not nickel and diming each other or charging each other. It's really a understanding it's a need that the city has, and also it provides value to the county.
Any questions for the city or for Sheriff Milstead? Any questions? This is something we looked at the building committee several times.
I would make
Comments?
a motion to approve the agreement.
I have a motion. Is there a second? A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 11 is consider a motion to authorize the chairman to sign professional services agreements with Architectural Incorporated for review and design of the county administration building roof replacement project. Mark Krenz. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Commission. Mark Krenz, Facilities Department. The 2016 capital improvement schedule has $87,000 to replace the roof on the administration building. I've contacted Architecture Incorporated to do the design work for the roof replacement. The fees for their work is $10,000, and I'm requesting Commission to authorize the contract with Architecture Incorporated to move forward with this project. If there's any questions, I can answer them.
Is there anything for Mark? Commissioner Kelly?
Well, you mentioned at the building committee, the structural question, is that gonna be included included in this?
Yes, the architect already contacted a structural engineer, so we're just waiting on them to come down and have a look at the building.
Okay. Any further questions for Mark? Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Item number 12 is consider a motion to authorize the Highway Department to purchase a mastic in the amount of 66.64 cents per pound from contract number 16908, competitive bid and awarded by the South Dakota Department of Transportation. DJ Boothby, good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. DJ Boothby, Highway Superintendent. This item today is because with our purchasing policy, anytime we're going to purchase off of another government entity's bid, right now we have to come to the commission to ask for your approval to do that, and that allows us to not have to go through the formal bid process, which is a great benefit. This year we anticipate using, depending on the condition of our roadways, between $25,000 and $40,000 of this mastic material. And the state of South Dakota has an active contract that we're able to purchase off of, and so we are requesting your approval to do that here today.
Any questions for DJ? Your approval?
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 13 is consider a motion to authorize a Highway Department purchase of metal pipes and culverts and bridge material from True North Steel with a contract competitive bid and awarded by Beetle County. DJ Boothby.
Commissioners, again, like this last item, we have to do this because it's requesting authorization to purchase off of another entity's bid. Beetle County awards a contract usually on an annual basis, and it's through True North Steel for the purchase of metal pipe and bridge materials. And we don't have a set amount of pipe that we're going to purchase every year. It just kind of depends on the needs that come up throughout the year and what requests we receive from townships. And so it's nice to have this bid on file, so when we do have purchases throughout the year, we don't have to go out and get quotes. We just can purchase off of this set bid. So this is something that we do every year and have to renew every year. So if you have any questions, I'm available for those too.
Is there questions? Is there a motion?
Motion?
I have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 14 is consider recommendation for a bid award for various materials from the Highway Department annual material letting. The bids were opened March 11th, 2016.
Commissioners, we had our annual bid opening, and we really significantly decreased the amount of proposals that we had in this year's letting. And simply by saying if it was something that we purchased less than $10,000 of last year, we didn't want to include it in our annual materials letting. We would just go out and get quotes for those items. And so the items that we purchased more than $10,000 of, we wanted to make sure that we had something on file. That left us with 5 different proposals: the medium curing cutback asphalt, hot mix asphalt, snowplow and motor grader blade cutting edges, abrasive and salt sand mixture, and rock salt, which is what we put on our roads during the winter. And we received pretty decent bids for all 5 of those. The oil prices this year are really favorable, as we've discussed before with our bid openings, and so we're happy with the bids that we've received. The salt price did go up a little bit, but we've had major issues with that all over the whole United States in the last few years, and so we're not surprised to see that go up a little bit. The vendor is a new vendor to us, Blackstrap Inc., but the city of Sioux Falls has used those last year, and they're looking at extending a contract again this year to them, and so they're happy with their services. So we're comfortable moving forward with them and the other 4 of the vendors that are listed in your briefing memo.
Okay. Any questions for DJ? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. I'm going to pass the gavel to Commissioner Benega for item number 15. I have to recuse myself.
Item 15 is to authorize the chair to sign wetland purchase contract agreement between Minnehaha County and Titanca LLP in the amount of $54,750. DJ Boothby.
Commissioners, this is a new kind of item for us. We have not done this through Minnehaha County before that I'm aware of, certainly not since I've been here in the last 4 or 5 years. And I'd like to just give a real brief introduction to the the process. And if you have any really specific questions, I can try to answer them, or I think somebody from Tatanka is here today to answer your questions. So when an agency such as Minnehaha County or any government agency does a project, or if a developer wants to develop some land, a lot of times they may have impacts to wetlands that have been delineated, and they have to permit with the Corps of Engineers to either make sure they're not impacting those wetlands, or if they are going to impact them, they have to mitigate them somehow. They can either mitigate them on site. In our case, somewhere we could purchase property along the corridor that we're reconstructing and develop some wetlands, or we can work with the Corps of Engineers to determine the impact that we have, and then purchase from a bank of wetlands that have been mitigated by a private entity, such as Tatanka. And in this case, and in all cases, it's really to our benefit to purchase credits from a wetland mitigation bank, because then we really can wash our hands of it. We don't have to go and continue to monitor those wetlands for their lifetime. If we were to mitigate on site, and then, for example, upstream, somebody started pumping water into the channel or something like that, then that would change the way that our wetlands are operating, and then or if they stopped pumping water into the channel, then our wetlands would run dry. So our process would really be impacted by others, and so it's a lot easier and less of a headache for us just to purchase credits from a wetland mitigation bank. Like I said, wash our hands of it, allow them to take the risk, and it might cost us a little bit more upfront with a contract fee, but really in the long run, it's going to be a savings for us to be able to go through this process. And this is, I think I read, this was on Tatanka's website, and I printed out a brochure and I handed it to everybody if they're interested in looking at that. But this is the preferred method in the CFR for wetland mitigation. And so when that's being pushed by the federal government and the Corps of Engineers, I think that is a well-advised route for us to take.
Thank you, DJ. Does anyone have any questions for DJ?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
DJ, prior to this process, what did we do?
Not had significant enough impacts to wetlands to have to mitigate since I've been here. There's been reconstruction projects in the past. I think maybe 10 years ago or so was the last one that we had, and I'm not aware of any wetlands along that corridor that had to be mitigated. We certainly don't have any monitoring that we have to do, and so I'm not really sure exactly the process that they went through with that contract.
Other questions? Commissioner
DJ,
Bender?
how did you choose this particular Tatanka to work with as opposed to another bank?
They're the ones that are most well-known, and I don't know this to be 100% sure. I'm sure that they can answer this. They may be the only one that is in this region. They have regions that they're allowed to work in, because we couldn't mitigate with a wetland in California, for example. It has to be a regional wetland bank, and they may be the only one that the Corps has authorized in this region. I'm not sure about that, but they're the only one that I've heard of.
Okay.
So a representative from Tatanka here, would they like to make any comments?
Well, I'll answer any questions.
You'll need to come to the mic, sir, if you don't mind. And you will need to identify yourself.
Paul Heiberger, Hartford, South Dakota, owner of Tatanka.
Okay, thank you.
And to answer your question, we're the only bank in the state at this time. And it's a long process to start a bank and create it and things like that. So it is, I think there'll be more in the future. But it is what the Corps prefers, because the credits is what we sell. It's created ahead of time. So what we do is we go out and take a piece of ground and create wetlands. They're absolutely 100% good to sell. And so at that point, the Corps will sign a long-term agreement, I'll say, that says that we have these X amount of credits to sell. It goes on their ledger down in Omaha. And at that point, then we can start selling credits. We only have so many
when we build a bank, we really don't know how many credits we're gonna have to sell. Now that they're certified and we can sell them, it's 100% all the time. There is no liability towards the county in this. It's all carried by Tatanka, which is usually a big selling point.
Okay. Other questions for Paul?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
You know, I remember, I think when this project of yours came into existence, and I'm pretty happy that this is a plan here. At the same time, I have heard from others that it's not as good as the one that nature created in the beginning, and you know, I'm sure that you're making advances all the time on how to manage this type of thing. You know, buying buckets of frogs and turtles to throw in there or something. But what can you tell me about those advances as they go forward? Are we making them better than they maybe originally started out as? And
So how it's done is they'll go out and measure a wetland, and they'll say this has X amount of functional credit units. And so it measures the quality of the wetland. It may be half a credit per acre. It can be up to 6 to 9 if it's a real pristine wetland. So then what we do when we created our wetlands, it's all measured over a 5 to 7 year period of what type of quality wetland have we built and how many credits, so that if they impact a low quality wetland, then we replace it with those certain credits, so it stays the same. Our wetland has increased in value every year, and we've got 2 banks, and we're starting our 3rd this year, but we've seen it every year. It does get better, and we believe that as nature takes its course, it's gonna keep on getting better. It was designed to do that and be that way. There are long-term management funds put to the side of quite substantial if something would ever happen or need to be done to keep it that way. It's gotta be done in perpetuity, so it's a non-wasting fund to make sure that that remains a wetland for all time, basically. So we're not losing the quality of our wetlands according by measurement. We're replacing them, and then hopefully it grows from there. So the thing that people argue is, well, you replace a small wetland and we have a bigger site, but it is known if you try to do it, leave a wetland in place or create one on site, over 50% of the time when they come back, those wetlands are not functioning where they were, or they're not there at all because water changes course. They do a lot of paving, and all the water gets pushed away if we try to leave it in our developed areas or even in road ditches at times.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm appreciative of it, and I know it will get better. And being a county commissioner over the years, I've seen areas of our county that where lakes have been drained and sloughs, destroyed before the laws started to change to protect it a little bit more. And I appreciate the fact that you, as an entrepreneur, would be providing this to us as a county and to other construction entities. And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize you to sign this contract.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We do have a second. Any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Item number 16 is consider a motion to approve an update to Section 5 of the county purchasing of the Minnehaha County Policies and Procedures Manual deferred from February 9th. DJ Boothie.
Commissioners, we've discussed the purchasing manual a couple different times, and since our last discussion, I have had a meeting or two with some of the staff, including auditors department and commission office, and we've come up with some revisions based off of comments received from the county commissioners, and also some revisions based off of different department needs and desires. And so what I would like to do is just hit on some of the highlights that are in this proposed policy manual update, and then open it up for questions after giving a bit of a highlight through here. Sure. So going back to the need for wanting to do this, I don't know if I did that. There it is, okay. Going back to the need of the change for our existing purchasing policy, over the last few years, the highway department alone has averaged about 110 commission agenda items, and the majority of those are project-based. They're not a different part of our department operation, but they're based off of different projects that we're conducting. And the reason that has gone up so high in the last few years compared to 5 years ago is because the additional funding that we have in the department has resulted in a lot more projects that we're completing on an annual basis. And so because we're completing more projects, there's several items that we have to come to the commission for approvals for every single project, and so that's been the result of why we've come for 110 times each year over the last few years. Another reason is the existing purchasing policy, it's most relatable to procurement of items and purchasing of different items, not necessarily construction projects. And so we really wanted to tweak some of that language, but then we would be taking away from the existing purchasing policy. And so we decided that it would be best served to have a separate section just for construction projects and the statutes that relate only to construction projects, not necessarily to purchasing of materials or procurement of materials. And so this is proposed and introduced as a second or a separate section in the purchasing manual that exists today. One important item to note, as we've discussed before, is that everything that's proposed in this policy update for this first year, and we're proposing that we come back in December of 2016. Anything that is different in the way that we operate from today, before we move forward with it, regardless of what this says in the purchasing policy update, before we move forward with that, we have to have approval of our commission chairman and our commissioner liaison in an email before we move forward with any of that. And so that's just to provide some protection and some guidance through this process in the first year. And then in December, we'll come back and give a review summary of everything that we've learned throughout the year. Maybe propose some changes, maybe throw the whole thing in the garbage, who knows, maybe adopt it on a permanent basis, hopefully adopt it on a permanent basis. So going through just a general project process. First, we have budget authorization. You all are familiar with the budget process, and we have budget authorization for projects that occur on an annual basis, and so that is not being proposed to really change. In 2015, we had a little bit different of a process because of the highway funding bill that was passed in the legislature in 2015, introduced the idea of a 5-year plan that has to be approved by the county commission. And so now moving forward, that will be part of our budget process. Every year, the county commission will be approving our 5-year plan. And that 5-year plan includes projects identified individually for the next 5 years, with an extra emphasis on the next year's projects, because those are the ones that we know for sure are going to be moving forward and have work on. The next process after we have our budget authorization is the architectural and engineering professional service agreements. That's usually when we hire an engineer to help us starting to design the project. The highway department utilizes a qualifications-based selection process, which is important because in the state of South Dakota and in most, if not all states, professional services, it's illegal to bid those based off a low bid, similar to what we would do for procurement of materials or construction project. And so because it's a professional service, we use a qualifications-based selection. Agreements are what we sign with those firms for their professional service. And we're proposing that any agreement that's less than $50,000 and any amendment that would result in a cumulative agreement amount of less than $50,000, and that's a change from what you've seen before. Before, that word cumulative wasn't included in the policy. But anything that's less than $50,000 in total may be signed by the highway superintendent if the project was included in that long-range plan and that 5-year plan. all agreements greater than $50,000 or amendments which result in agreement greater than $50,000 must be signed by the commissioner chairman. And so we would have an agenda item for that, and that would be brought to the entire commission for signature. Additionally, changes in scope, they must be approved by the Highway Department Commission liaison. And that would be, as we've discussed before, we have a project that we're working on, and let's say that we want to add a bike path like we did in Hartford. That's a change in scope from what was originally scoped out, and so we want to make sure, and it's in writing here, that we're coordinating that with the liaison. And then that liaison and the highway superintendent will be able to talk back and forth. If it's a big enough change in scope, then we'd come to the entire county commission. But if it's something like the addition of a bike path early on in a project that's not going to impact the budget, then with his approval or her approval, we'd be able to move forward. All AE agreements for proposed projects that are not in the current approved budget must be signed by the commission chairman. And so what that means is if we have a project that has come up that we weren't planning on doing, or maybe it's planned 2 or 3 years out and we have additional funds because we've had really good bids this year and we want to move forward with that now, we would have to come to the commission for your full approval if we wanted to start that project early. And of course, we wouldn't do that if we didn't have budget available from savings. So once our agreements are all in place and being worked on, we usually have construction contracts next. And construction contracts can go one of two ways. If they're less than the current statutory bid amounts, we typically don't do a formal advertising where we advertise in the newspaper and award a project based off of what was from the bid opening. We typically do more of an informal quote process where we ask a few different contractors for quotes based off of plans or a scope that we've put together. And as long as it's less than that formal contract amount defined by statute, we're proposing that the highway department can sign those agreements. And that's the way that we operate today. And it works well for smaller, like a guardrail repair project when a bridge gets ran into during an accident or something like that. We'll sign off on that contract, it gets repaired. When we have a larger project that's greater than the current statutory bid limits, we're doing the formal advertising and we're bringing that contract to the commission for approval. And I'll talk about that more during the bid process. The bid process in whole is probably not going to change a whole heck of a lot from how we operate. It will be a little bit different from the commission's perspective. Because we're not proposing to come to the commission requesting approval of the notice to bidders any longer. We would like to consider that approved during the budget process. You're approving a project to move forward. And so we can prepare notice to bidders and submit that to the auditor's office for public notice. That keeps turning on and off. During the bid process, we'll submit that notice to bidders to the auditor's office. And do I need to have the mouse up toward the top? Okay, sorry. We'll submit that notice to bidders to the auditor's office. They'll put it in the newspaper, or they'll notice it. We will advertise the project, and then we'll have a bid opening. And once we have the bid opening, we'll tabulate all the bids, make an award recommendation, and bring that to the county commission for approval. And we think that's a critical step in the project process because that's really when we have to decide, is this a good price to move forward? Is this in line with our budget? And we feel that the commission should have a say in whether or not that's a point that we want to move forward in. And so there haven't been, at least in the last several years, very many, if any, contracts that we've decided at that point that we've not received favorable bids and not moved forward. But in the history of contracting, that's a really vital step because that is certainly a point where you have to make that decision if you've not received favorable bids that it's not in your best interest to move forward. So including the commission in that bid award process, we feel is important. changes to existing contracts. So now, once we have a contract in place and a contractor on board, there's an opportunity that there could be changes, whether they're unforeseen conditions or whether they're changes in scope or whether we just have a different a different quantity of materials being used during the project. There's going to be changes that happen during a construction project. And so what we've done with this policy is really limit the amount that the department can sign for. And what we've said is anything less than $25,000 or 10% of the base contract, whichever is less, may be approved by the highway superintendent. And then change orders greater than $25,000 or 10% of the base contract, whichever is less, shall be approved by the county commissioner liaison and the commission chairman. And that would be like an email approval process similar to the hiring process, how HR sends out those emails. And we feel that's important because we have to maintain the progression of the construction project, and having to come with a regular agenda item to the county commission could delay us up to 2 weeks. And if it's a critical change order on the critical path of the construction project, that could really be detrimental to the schedule. And then, so once we have signatures on a contract change order, all approved construction change orders should be delivered to the auditor's office within 2 working days, placed on the next regular commission agenda under the notice and request as an informational item. And that way we're being transparent as a government, and the commissioners for sure are being made aware of any changes that are happening to the construction process. In addition to that, notice to all change orders shall be given to the Highway Department Commissioner Liaison within 2 working days. And then the next part of the proposed policy is basically just a snapshot of what is included from the South Dakota Department of Legislative Audit on change order laws. And this is literally verbatim from their policy that's based off of statute, and that tells us when it's legal to have a change order, when it's not legal to have a change order. And really, last but not least, in this policy, the monthly reporting portion of it, we've talked about this before. We feel this is really important in, again, being transparent as a government and as a department. We want the commission to understand how our projects are progressing. And so we're proposing to provide these monthly reports for each project, giving you a quick 1-page summary of where we're at, where we've been in the last month, and where we're going to be going in the next month. Summary of costs, change orders, maybe a picture or two that just shows the progress of construction. And so that monthly reporting feature is included in the policy. This next page is a summary. This is not actually part of the policy, but it's a summary for information. And this first page of the summary is the summary from 2014 and 15 of the engineering professional services that we had. We had a total of 30 different signatures that were required. 27 of those were agreements for engineering services, and 3 of them were amendments to those agreements. So a total of 30. And the ones that are highlighted as yellow, were ones that would have been agenda items under this proposed policy. And there's 11 of those that we would have had to come to the commission to the full commission for an agenda item, and the remaining would not have had an agenda item. They would have been signed by the highway superintendent. And so you can see the dollar amounts on those, and so 11, or about a third of them would have had agenda items still, but 2/3 of them we would not have had to come to the commission with an agenda item. The next page is a similar summary, but for construction change orders. And on the bottom of this page here, I said 5 of 27. That's a typo, actually. It should say 5 of 28. We had 28 change orders in the last 2 years, in 2014 and 15. Of those 28 change orders, 5 of them would have came to the commission for approval, to the full commission for approval. And the remaining 23 of those would have been able to be signed by the highway superintendent with approval of the liaison and the chairman. And so just with the last two summaries, we see a really drastic decrease in the amount of agenda items. We'll still definitely be in front of the commission on a regular basis, just not 4 or 5 different items every week. So I am now done with that summary of the proposal, and I'm available for questions.
Are there any questions for DJ? Commissioner Kelly?
DJ, on the, when a bid is, when a project is approved at budget time, then that basically is giving you authority to publish notice to bidders when you're ready to do it, and instead of coming to us like it has been. Is that the way?
That's generally correct. There is a process in there with the engineering agreement that we may have to be in front of the commission again, or the liaison and chairman again, before we go to the notice to bidders. But that budget process is a really important piece of the project process that's giving the department and the county approval to move forward with the project. And we need that authority because we can't plan on doing projects through the budget process and then find out when we're going to design or something like that, that we aren't going to have that support and approval. And so we need to have that budget process really nailed down and have the commissioners understand which projects we're including in the next year's budget, because that is going to give us authority for that notice to bidders. And it's possible on a smaller contract that the commission will not see that as an entire group until we go to the bid award process.
Thank you.
Which is after the bid opening.
Commissioner Benega?
Did you just have a couple with informal agreements when you make calls to contractors about providing quotes? Do you keep written quotes from those organizations so that you have backup to show why you chose that person?
Yep, and that's actually required, I think, in statute. It's either in statute or it's in our purchasing manual that we have to keep on record those quotations. And we have an electronic file that not just these projects, but every purchase that we make over $1,000 in our department, we have on file, all the quotes that we received.
That leads me to my second question, and it's more of an audit compliance related issue. I don't know, Bob or Kim, you've read through the policy. Do you have any concerns about audit compliance with the auditors reviewing all of this?
We've not approached the Department of Legislative Audit about this here, but from what I've seen,
Bob, you should come up and speak at the mic, please.
Sorry, I know better than that. Bob Litz from Audit. We've not approached the Department of Legislative Audit with any concerns on this here. I did review it, and I believe Kim's reviewed it, and we really don't have any concerns at this point with what DJ is proposing.
My experience is, as I know some of you'd be shocked at this, but legislative audit can change your philosophical approach depending on who the auditor is. And I'm wondering if there's a reason for us to have them look at this before we finalize it, so to speak.
I'm sorry, we did have some discussions with legislative audit. They did not raise issues with the proposed changes as long as we addressed any changes on a cumulative basis.
Okay. Would they send that to you in writing?
We do not have that in writing.
Okay.
Gerald, you're absolutely right. Sometimes the goalposts do shift depending on the philosophy of who it is that's doing the audit. We've been pretty consistent in having Jeff Schaefer, but as you remember last year, we kind of got caught in a snafu where things had changed and we weren't aware of it. It changed at the first of the year, and then when we had our audit starting in May, we found out that certain things had changed, and we got sideways with them a little bit on that. So.
Commissioner Benega?
Just the one, and then I'm done. When I looked through all of them, obviously, it's as a net effect of a negative dollar amount. I mean, the reductions in the change orders are all less from a percentage-wise and from a dollar-wise. The only one that stands out as an issue is obviously the, excuse me, the emergency repairs for MC 14-16, which is percentage-wise and dollar-wise significant. Can you kind of just, excuse me, highlight that?
So the emergency repairs contract is definitely an abnormality from what we typically see in a construction project. In a typical construction project, we follow the process that I outlined here, where we have a set design and there's a lot of thought process that goes into it. When we have an emergency repair contract, and specific to these change orders for that MC 14-16 contract, we had a flood, we had really a hasty recon of the damage assessment that was completed, and we threw together some really generic, simple plans for a contractor to help us bid that work, and then we got the contract underway. A few months later, when the contractor was on that site specifically, we realized that the quantities that were estimated in a scour hole is something underneath the water level that you can't really see. The quantities that were required for the repairs on that were much greater than what was estimated. We could have estimated perfectly, and that scour could have continued in that time frame between when the estimate was made and when the contractor was actually out there. We could have totally blown the estimate, and it was like that all along. We don't really know. But it was simply that, an emergency, hasty recon of damage that was done for after a flood event. The initial contract was $66,000, I think, if I'm reading that right. And the percentage is going to really look bad because we had such a small contract amount, but that's why it's highlighted. We're greatly over that percentage of, I think, 10% that we would be coming to the commission for approval, and that whole thing would be described to the commission. You know, we had a hasty recon, we found out what really happened, and this is how we need to move forward. So I guess in summary, please grant us some grace. It was an emergency contract, and we had a really rough time making an estimate just because the conditions were unknown.
Well, I'm not criticizing, it's just, I remembered the bridge issues, but I didn't remember they were those dollar amounts, frankly. But if you add up the gross dollars, I didn't do that in my head, but you're gonna end up, I'm sure, with a very negative number of change orders that have been reduced.
And in a case like this, if we would have been out on a normal construction project and saw that big of a change, we probably would have completed the project that we were there to complete and then had a separate contract come back later and do additional work. But because this was an emergency repair, we decided to do it all together. And that summary of the laws of the change orders, because unforeseen conditions is an allowable change order, we were able to complete that work using a change order. Had that not been unforeseen, we definitely wouldn't have done that amount of work in addition to the original contract, just based off of a construction change order.
I did think of one other, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
When you are on a project and you end up with a change order and it takes too long for the process to work, if you will, so the contractor's either not working, you ever had any issues with the contractor leaving and not coming back when you wanted them to?
Yeah, you bet. That's happened on multiple different occasions. If we're dragging our feet during an approval process and they're waiting for us, normally contractors have multiple different projects that they're working on at any given time. And so I think Kirsten would agree that there's a defense that the contractor has that says, I can't sit here and wait. I'm going to move off site because I'm not receiving direction, and they're going to go work on other projects. And so that's a claimable delay that they have, and so we would have to extend the contract date simply because we were holding them up.
Do they ever charge us for that moving out, moving back in?
When I've worked at Minnehaha County, I haven't had that issue come up, but certainly when I was at the city, when we have a lot bigger contracts, we've had that issue, yes.
I'm done.
Okay, additional questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I would move to approve the new purchasing plan.
I'll second,
A
and
motion
I would
and a second,
comment.
with a comment from Commissioner Barth.
Well, I just think this is very promising, and we can always revert to the older way. I worry that you know, while this commission remembers all of this and can be vigilant that our successors may not know that there's an alternative process and in the future may drop the ball. I'm also pretty happy with you as our highway superintendent, and our next one may not be as brilliant as you. So we need to stay vigilant. I'm happy about this, but I'm not ecstatic.
Additional comments, Commissioner Kelly.
Just a comment, we are gonna review this thing at the end of the year and see if there's anything needs tweaking in it or if it's working out at all. So I think we've got a pretty good check and balance in there, and we'll know then whether, it'll become a more permanent maybe at that point, but I commend you for all the work you've done on this thing, and it's been a lot, and I think it'll expedite a lot of the stuff we're doing.
Additional comments? I have a motion and a second to approve, which it will
Madam
be
Chair.
reviewed again in December. Excuse me, Mr. Litz.
I did want to apologize to the commission for being uninformed about my office going down to the Department of Legislative Audit and checking this out, but I was gone on vacation last week. I've been catching up a lot, and it's good evidence to me that I'm in good hands when I do go on vacation, as well as the commission. So I apologize once again.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Item number 17 is an update and status report of the 91st legislative session on bills that impact Minnehaha County. Robert Wilson.
Commissioners, Robert Wilson again. You will recall that for what seems like at least the last month, I've been essentially in a holding pattern, talking about the bills that are of most direct impact to us. And I'm happy to report today that I've got some good news to bring to you. Senate Bill 2, which would give us a percentage, give counties a percentage, 25% of the alcoholic beverage fund tax, was approved in the House yesterday. And that was passed the Senate earlier in the session, passed the House yesterday by a 69 to 0 mark with one excused. So that is certainly a good sign for us. It's new general fund revenue. And it's wonderful to see that moved forward. There's a lot of commissioners and staff that put a lot of time into that, both through the summer session and then as we've been in session as well. The other big bill that we've been watching is House Bill 1005 that would update a number of the fees that primarily the Sheriff's Office and the Treasurer's Office charge. That was approved by the House, has been over on the Senate side for a number of weeks as they work through some of the larger revenue items. That is scheduled for floor debate today, and we're hopeful that will come through in good shape as well. We are aware of a proposed amendment that may go on, an attempt to put an amendment on that bill that may change at least a couple of those fee schedules, and I know the sheriff is opposed to that because these are a number of fees I believe that would be in under the sheriff's office, and we obviously would like to see those fees stay where they are as well and not be reduced. But again, that will be considered under floor session in the Senate today. Otherwise, those have been the main bills that we've been watching over the number of bills that I've listed in the memo that's been provided to you over the course of the session. We're really to the point that most of the other bills we've been watching either have been deferred to the 41st day, killed, or signed by the governor, and we're down to that last week, and really I have those two main bills to brief you on this morning, and would be able to answer any other questions, but that's my the highlights of the update.
Any questions? Commissioner Benega.
You and I talked about this earlier today. I don't know if there's been any changes in the whole conversation about bringing back the Medicaid issue, because that financially has probably the biggest impact on the county than any of the other stuff combined.
It is, and I know on the association level, they're working on that, and obviously that's part of a larger conversation, and we're not privy to all those conversations that are moving forward. But you are absolutely right that the impact, the end result impact of that on the county would be significant. Even compared to the revenue bills here that I've just been discussing.
Additional questions for Robert?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Barth?
I'm glad Gerald brought that up, but I guess I'd just say I really appreciate the efforts by our legislators, our friends in Pierre, which I never thought we had any, but in the Senate and the House, who worked through these complex issues and came up with some promising ideas for us, and I hope the governor comes forward and signs them into law.
Additional comments?
I would echo your point to the extent that all of you have watched the legislative sessions long enough to know how difficult it is to ask for additional revenue from the state, and it appears at this point we have some, and I would reach out in a note of thanks to our legislators, may be quite appropriate at this point.
And to our taxpayers, that if this actually passes on, it will be an extra $600,000 to Minnehaha County. That will not be a raise in property tax. So, and this is money that's already collected on alcohol, so there's no increase in taxes. So we're really hopeful that the governor will sign this and not refer us back to raising property taxes.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, just comment, there's been some discussion over the years, particularly at the state level, as to do we go in with a couple of big ideas and try and sell them, or do we take a whole bunch of little ones? It appears we've been very successful in telling the legislature what our plight is, and I think they're very understanding, and I think this summer study this year really opened their eyes to a lot of things. There was a lot of acknowledgement prior to that, but this got it in paper, and Bureau of Finance, I can't remember who what, but the original paper they put out and presentation they made to that summer study committee was incredible. I think this is the way we're going to solve our problems is a bite at a time. That, next year we're going to have to look and see, are there some small areas there that may or may not have an impact, or may make whoever's creating the problem pay for the problem, as opposed to all the general taxpayers. So I think we're on track now, maybe to over the next 5 to 6 years get our county revenue situation at least increased, at least improved considerably.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Any other comments?
Oh, and I might comment, if I remember correctly, you were the one that was really pushing the tax distribution as opposed to other methods, and I commend you for that, and then we stayed with it and got it.
I think Sheriff Milstead started that line, and I just continued on with it, so. Item number 18 is consider a motion to issue the annual St. Patrick's Day proclamation of Minnehaha County, Robert Wilson, and I have asked Commissioner Kelly, and he will be our representative on Saturday, and he has said that he will, so.
Very good. This is certainly a tradition for the county commission to approve both the, read and approve the St. Patrick's Day proclamation, and then also participate in the painting of the shamrock that this year will be on Saturday, March 12th, 2 p.m. Excuse me, the parade will be at 2 p.m. The painting of the shamrock and the reading of the proclamation will be at 11:30 at the corner of 9th and Phillips downtown. And again, it's a fun event. It has been something that we have, you as a commission have participated in for a number of years, all the years that I've been with the county, and we have that proclamation here for your consideration this morning, and I would read that unless there are any other questions or comments prior to.
Well, if you'd read it, that would be great.
And I might brag a little that my granddaughter Megan is the Miss Shamrock.
Yeah. Also a good year for Commissioner
with
Kelly
no
to do it.
influence from me.
The St. Patrick's Day Proclamation of Minnehaha County. Welcome to you all this St. Patrick's Day, whether you trace your heritage to the Emerald Isle or if you claim being all of the green in spirit today. We join all in a foundation of friendship. We revel with our worldwide Irish family, the community spirit of welcome as we pay proper homage to the little Emerald Isle across the ocean, wild and wide, that bestowed the United States daughters and sons of Erin of a vibrant culture and rich heritage that honors the patron saint, St. Patrick of Ireland. Now, with your best soothing Irish brogue, celebrate with me in the Irish spirit of fun and the tradition with much gusto and visions of shamrocks, shillelaghs, leprechauns, and a lifting of a glass or two of Irish whiskey. Wishing you God's blessing, and now let us shout and proclaim Happy St. Patrick's Day. Dated this 8th day of the merry month of March 2016, signed by the Minnehaha County Commissioners, all, Cindy O'Hyberger, Chairman, Gerald O'Benega, Vice Chairman, Jeff O'Barth, Commissioner, Jean O'Bender, Commissioner, and Dick O'Kelly, Commissioner.
Thank you. Go on to item number, oh, wait, we need a motion. Sorry.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those
Patrick's
opposed, same
Day.
sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 19 is County Commission Liaison Reports. Are there any reports? I will just mention that 2 weeks ago, I was in Washington DC for the legislative NACO conference, and I am still in the process of trying to put together a stack of notes and papers, so I'll maybe have a little bit more to talk about next week. We did go up to the Hill and visit with Kristi Noem and Senator Thune, and we saw Senator Rounds, but we just visited with his staff that day. But I'll try to have more for you next week after I've had a chance to try to get through some of my stuff. So, are there any other liaison reports? Is there any new business? Is there any old business? Look for executives.
Yeah,
excuse me.
I don't know what the
Commissioner Kelly?
There was an article in the paper today, in the Argus today, regarding our 24/7 program and its effect on some issues here in Minnehaha County. And I've asked Robert, with your permission, to, perhaps that'd be a good opportunity to do something that we can get into the county news and just send a press release out to them and see. But it was complimentary of the 24/7 program, and it was very complimentary of the results that it's happened.
Thank you. I think then we're ready to adjourn for executive session per personnel. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.